It integrates with everything. It keeps track of all of your ideas. And oh yeah, it's free. Hey guys, it's Ryan from LimeLight DIY. It's the podcast for the independent creator who is out there each and every day, fighting the good fight to ascend to the limelight. It is incredibly delicious to have you with us on this YouTube edition of the podcast. The podcast, if you aren't familiar, is available on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify, and pretty much any place that you find a podcast. But we dig in each and every week to topics that are important to podcasters, to YouTubers, to bloggers, really any independent creator who is out there looking to take their platform to the next level and actually build it into a brand. And it's time that we kind of focus a little bit more on this whole YouTube thing that we're talking about. Today we're going to show you a tool that I've been using for a while, not just on this podcast, not just on YouTube, although I do use it for several of my YouTube channels, but I've also used it in several marketing agencies I've worked for. It's called Trello. You've probably heard of it before. You may never have used it the way that we're going to use it today, though. And it is a great tool for the people who might be like me, who have about 1,000 things that are going on up here every single day that they need to figure out, how do I organize this and get it out of here and put it into the real world? Trello is going to help us do that, and it's a great free tool. And let's actually switch over to the desktop, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, jumping over here onto the laptop, you can kind of see I've got this board set up already. It's called LimeLight Test Content Planner. This is in Trello. This is in the desktop version of Trello, which, by the way, you can get at Trello.com. This is a reasonable facsimile of what the actual LimeLight content board will look like. The way it's set up right now is I've got these lists that you see up here. These are called lists, by the way. I've got Podcast Planner, YouTube Planner, Instagram Planner, Facebook Planner, and assorted to-do items. I have not filled all these in. I just kind of want to give you a rough overview of how the tool works and how I'm using it. I've got the podcast planner. I do have one of these cards filled out. And by the way, this is considered a board. This whole screen is a board. Each one of these is a list, and each one of the pieces right here is a card. And you could add cards, and you could add lists, and you could do all those things. So let's go into here on the October board. You see that I've already kind of pre-populated. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click that, and it opens right up. There are two main sections of this. On the left, you kind of have like the living area that I call it, and this is where really all the work gets done. You can see, you scroll down and it kind of shows you all the different changes that have been made. And then you go to the right side, and you've got all the tools that are available to you. You can see I've got several tools available. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through what each section is and how to do it. So right here, I've got October board. I could call that whatever I want. You click this and you change it. Let's say October board for podcast. Nice and simple. Call it whatever you want, but make sure you call it something that you understand, and that when you look at it for just a half second, you already go, okay, I know what that is. Down here, we got labels. Weekly episode is the label that's listed right there. And that coincides with over here on the right, labels. Let's click labels. You've got multiple colors right here. You could add more colors to it if you want to. And basically, you can assign whatever you want to these colors. By clicking the little pencil, it edits it. And green is weekly episode. Let's say I'm going to call it weekly episodes. There. Yellow, I've got for promotional stuff. Orange, I've got for outsourcing. Whatever you do is going to come up over here in the label section. Why are we using labels? Well, labels are just so that when you go back to the board originally and you're trying to figure out, okay, how many of my cards are weekly episodes? Well, you got that green. You can take a quick look and tell that everything that has a green label on it is going to be a weekly episode. It's just a very easy classification tool. And one little warning I'd like to give you, don't add more than 2 labels to any one card. Once you start adding more than 2, then you get yourself a little bit of a rainbow, and you have to stop and go, okay, well, what does that mean? It means this, 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 and this. It means nothing when you throw every label on it. So try to keep it to 1 or 2 labels. Due date. You see it's showing as overdue. That's because this particular card I set up a while ago. I'm going to move the to-do date on this one to October the 3rd. at 10 p.m. And that's because if I want to publish an episode on a Friday morning at 5 a.m., I want to be done the night before by 10 p.m. And I want to make sure that it reminds me one day before. So that is when this entire board is due. Due date, October 3rd, 10 p.m. Description, I'm going to go down here. And on the description, it's going to tell me whatever I want it to tell me. This is a kind of fill in your own story card. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my episode number. I'm going to put my episode title, what the focus of this particular episode is, and 4 things that I want to make sure that I touch on. And I never want to do more than maybe 4 or 5 things that I want to touch on in a given episode. It just gets too busy at that point. But I want to put this in the description section because that will allow me to quickly review this card when I'm recording the episode to make sure that I've got everything that I need. And usually when I actually do this, these are going to be a lot more in-depth. But you can kind of see how I've got it right there. You can go down to checklist, and it's going to create this to-do checklist for you. And this is my favorite part of Trello, is the to-do checklist, because let's go ahead and uncheck these for a second. I'm going to put what is going to take to get this episode done. This is my list to myself. What do I need to do to make sure that this episode is finished on time? And it says right here I've got 0% done. So let's say I pull my stats on listener fatigue, like I said. I go ahead and, oh, look at that. 20% of my chores are now done. Check on my site, on my own stats, 40%. You can go all the way down, and it shows you really how much you have left to give you an idea as to where you are. Now, yes, I understand that sometimes one of these is going to be weightier than the other things, but you know, this is still pretty darn good. Activity down here. This is where I can write notes, I can assign to-do items, and I can kind of see what all has happened so far with this one. Down here, Rip Current Content Marketing Services, completed design cover on Canva. Rip Current, by the way, was one of the agencies that I started way back in the day. Let's go ahead and leave myself a note at Ryan. Please publish this on time. I'm going to hit save. And at Ryan. You're not going to see it right here, but I've just received an email and a notification that a to-do has been assigned to me, or a note has been assigned to me, or whatever this happens is. Whatever you do, just go ahead and hit at and then the person's name, and it's like Twitter. It's going to send them an alert. And by the way, that coincides with this over here, members. You hit members, and you could add all the members you want to. As long as they have a Trello account, you could add other members. So if you have people on your team, if you're outsourcing pieces, or if you got other people that you're working with on your platform, you could add them as members to this card, and it'll keep them up on all the things that are happening. So you don't have to worry that, well, I made a note right here, now I need to go tell them. Well, they're very easily told through Trello. Checklist, we talked about. Labels, we talked about. Members, we talked about. Due dates, we talked about. But attachments, this is fairly common for these programs to have an attachment thing. But I personally like to use it to make sure that I have my show notes. I put my show notes and anything that I need to link to later on, I put them all on here, because even though I'm doing this on my desktop, let's say I'm out and about and I need to do a few things from my phone. Well, now, because of Trello, I have access to all of my notes and all of my attachments. So really powerful. Wherever you are, you can get back to work. Love it. Cover, that just changes the aesthetic of everything. I've got this green cover. I can change it. Power-ups, get power-ups. I'm not going to go into that right now, other than to just say it's a way to get extra plugins that will kind of enhance the productivity of this. You can get it so that it'll connect to certain calendars or export certain lists or things like that. So you can go into that yourself and customize through power-ups. I will say this, go sparing in the power-ups. It's really easy to start adding every power-up you find that looks fun, but the more complicated you make this whole thing, the worse it's going to be. Copy. Let's say that you've set up this card and you're going to have another task coming up that's going to use most of this again. You don't want to recreate the entire thing. That's fine. Hit copy, and it'll make an entire new copy of this, and then you just go through there and you edit it and change the little pieces that you want to. Don't worry about watch. Don't worry about share. Those are pretty obvious. Archive. When this whole thing is done, you finish this, you want to keep a record of this episode or this podcast, this blog post, whatever this is. You want to keep a copy of it, but you don't want it kind of cluttering things up. That's fine. hit archive. It's going to save everything off of your board. You'll still have access to it, but it's going to take it off of here and keep everything nice and clean. This, again, great tool. It works with so many calendars. I've got this hooked up, like this due date. I've got this hooked up to my Google Calendar right now. So wherever I am, I can quickly look at my calendar and see not only my normal schedule, but all of my Trello to-do items. I do have this shared with several people. As I make changes on here, they're going to see the changes. I can set them into to-do items. Let's say I want to go into pull stats and lister fatigue, and I'm going to assign it to myself. Whoop. There you go. Now I know who's responsible for it. Nice and easy, nice and quick, nice and clean, nice and free. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's a great platform. It does so many things. It integrates with everything. It's free. There's the danger in that. Because it's free and because it does so many things, people kind of want to throw every tool that it offers at a problem. And that's an issue because it makes things much more complicated than they need to be. And really, the jewel that you're trying to uncover lies in the simplicity of Trello and how easy it can be. So what I'm going to recommend is jump on Trello.com, Trello.com. Jump on there, sign up for an account, and spend maybe 20 to 30 minutes just kind of digging around under the hood. It's pretty intuitive. It's hard to get lost in it. But get into the desktop version first. Kind of see what all is there, get a lay of the land before you start really creating any boards or lists or cards, before you start integrating anything, and especially before you download the mobile versions of it, because the mobile versions are much more simplified, which is good, but it also means that you're not going to be able to really see the entire picture at once. The desktop version, you can throw everything up there at once and go, okay, this goes to that goes to this. It gives you a much better view, and then once you know where everything goes, yes, get the Apple version of it, get the Android version of it, and just go to town. Like I said, keep it simple. If this is your first time here, we are going to be doing a lot more on YouTube than we have been. I have a backlog of interviews with some of the creators that you've probably heard of before, who are going to be coming on and talking about how they went to the next level themselves. We're going to be putting a lot of those things up. We're going to be doing a lot more of these tool reviews, a lot more tips and tactics coming up. We're going to try to get this updated about once a week. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit more often, but again, try to keep it simple, at least to begin with. Let's keep it to one time a week so that I'm not wasting everybody's time with 85 videos that I'm asking you to watch. But I am asking you to watch this one. I'm asking you to go down below to the subscribe button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell next to it. It'll alert you when we have the next episode up. Quick thumbs up would be awesome. But I would like to ask one more favor of you. Go down below into the comments section. In the comments section, let me know what tools that you're using and that you think that our audience might get something out of. I will read through those, and any tools that are recommended, I will check out, and we might even just do a recommendation. Definitely, whoever recommends a tool that we use is going to get a shout out and a link on not only here, but on the LimeLightDIY.com website. So some good things going on there. And in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we're going to just go ahead and say sayonara. We'll see you around the bend.